I Am Malala, a non-fiction book of the year in which it was published, and it is the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. She is the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. And as you can read, that is, I Am Malala, the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban. And her full name is written Malala Yousafzai, uh, Yousafzai, with Christina Lamb. So Christina Lamb is one of the world's leading foreign correspondents. She has reported on Pakistan and Afghanistan since 1987, and it's really very well written, the whole thing. So it's a good read. You should read it, but there's certain things I'm going to just share with you to read out certain things. Like from page 277, I have the interviewing. She's interviewed by Judy Klein. It's her US editor. So Judy says, since you published I'm Malala, you won the Nobel Prize. Where were you when you learned the news? So Malala says, I was at school in my chemistry lesson when the deputy head teacher came into the classroom and called me outside. I wondered, am I in trouble? Have I done something wrong? When the deputy head teacher told me I had won the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize, alongside children's rights activist Kailash Satyarthi, I was shocked. I responded very formally. I thanked her for the news and said that I was honored. It was only when I saw tears in my teacher's eyes when they came up to congratulate me that the meaning of the news really sank in. My teachers were treating me as if I was their daughter. Their tears and good wishes touched my heart. Everyone was so happy for me, and I was happy too, because the cause that has been part of my life for so long has been recognized in such an important way. I wanted to find out more about Kailash Satyarthi's work. The teachers called an assembly and I was asked to speak in front of the whole school. I was so nervous. Speaking in front of your teachers and fellow students is much scarier than addressing the UN. I'm not sure I remember what I said, but I think it was about education, women's rights, and peace. Straight after that, I went to my physics lesson. I did not leave school until the school day was over. When I think about the Nobel Peace Prize now, I'm so grateful that the Nobel Prize was awarded to recognize the rights of children. Through this honor, our cause was highlighted around the world. The more I found about Kailash, the more precious I felt it felt to me sharing the award with him. I was humbled to meet this kind and committed man. His work should inspire all adults. He leads by example, showing that adults have the responsibility to protect children and recognize their rights. He shows that love exists and that our kindness and care can make a huge difference. He works tirelessly and rescues children from slavery and child labor. The ceremony itself was beautiful and inspiring. I was so happy to be joined by my brave friends from Pakistan, Nigeria, Syria, who also had to stand up for their rights. It meant so much to me that we could experience it together. So out of so many questions, another question that I would like to read is, when you look back, what do you think about the time you spent promoting the book in front of crowds, being interviewed and meeting the Queen and many others? So Malala says, in the beginning it was really nice, but then after saying the same thing over and over again, it started to get a little boring. But the people I met were very nice and they gave me this energy to say all the things I wanted to say and the message which I wanted to share. People were always excited to see me and to ask me questions. So it was the people's love and excitement which gave me the energy and willingness to do the same thing again and again. So, talking about this, there's another page, say 171. I found this particularly humorous uh, because it almost mirrors my sentiment. So here it is. When I was 13, I stopped growing. I had always looked older than I was, but suddenly all my friends were taller than me. I was one of the three shortest girls in my class of 30. I felt embarrassed when I was with my friends. Every night I prayed to Allah to be taller. I measured myself on my bedroom wall with a ruler and a pencil. Every morning I would stand against it to check if I had grown, but the pencil mark stayed stubbornly at 5 feet. I even promised Allah that if I could grow just a tiny bit taller, I would offer 100 nafl. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. Okay. Extra voluntary prayers on top of the 5 daily ones. So, this is so interesting to me. So, another on page 176, she writes, one Monday I was about to measure myself against the wall to see if I had miraculously grown in the night when I heard loud voices next door. So whatever. What I'm trying to point out is that she would do it studiously, religiously. She would measure herself to see if she had grown. Okay. So having done that, then let me talk. She talks a little about her father. So that is on page 117. So her father always thought if people were silent, nothing would change. So he believed, like that's on page 160, that he hated the fact that most people would not speak up. In his pocket, he kept a poem written by Martin Niemöller, who had lived in Nazi Germany. The poem is, first they came for the communists and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the socialists and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews and I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the Catholics and I didn't speak out because I was not a Catholic. Then they came for me and there was no one left to speak for me. So, okay. Another thing which I would want to share from page 170, that she used to be interviewed by many channels. So one day I went on Geo, which is one of the biggest news channels in our country. There was a wall of screens in their office, and I was astonished to see so many channels were going on there. Afterwards I thought, the media needs interviews. They want to interview a small girl, but the girls are scared, and even if they are not, their parents won't allow it. I have a father who isn't scared, who stands up by me. He said, you are a child and it's your right to speak. The more interviews I gave, the stronger I felt, and the more support we received. I was only 11, but I looked older, and the media seemed to like hearing from a young girl. One journalist called me Takra Jenai, which means a bright, shining young lady, and another one said, you are Pakha, P-A-K-H-A, Jenai. You are wise beyond your years. In my heart was a belief that God would protect me. If I'm speaking for my rights, for the rights of girls, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's my duty to do so. God wants to see how we behave in such situations. So, and she prayed to God every night to give. She writes, I prayed to God every night to give me strength. So that also is very interesting. And then let me talk something about her mother. Page 180. I know my mother didn't like the awards. This is about awards. Malala getting prizes and awards. So I know my mother didn't like the awards because she feared I would become a target as I was becoming more well known. She herself would never appear in public. She refused even to be photographed. She was a very traditional woman, and this is our centuries old culture. So, were she to break that tradition, men and women would talk against her, particularly those in our own family. She never said she regretted the work of my father, and I had, which my work my father and I had undertaken. But when I won prizes, she said, I don't want awards. I want my daughter. I wouldn't exchange a single eyelash of my daughter for the whole world. So, so this is it. And another very interesting anecdote that she writes is that once when she returned home, again this is on page 180, I was greeted with the news that there was a group of journalists who wanted to interview me at school, and that I should wear a nice outfit. First I thought of wearing a very beautiful dress, but then I decided to wear something more modest for the interview, as I wanted people to focus on my message and not my clothes. When I arrived at school, I saw all my friends had dressed up. Surprise! They shouted when I walked in. They had collected money and organized a party for me with a big white cake on which was written Success Forever in chocolate icing. It was wonderful that my friends wanted to share in my success. I knew that any of the girls in my class could have achieved what I had achieved if they had had their parents' support. So, and then she talks about the money that she wanted to. So she says, I had amassed a lot of money by the end of that year, 500,000 rupees, each from the Prime Minister, the Chief Minister of Punjab, the Chief Minister of a province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and the Sindh government, Major General Ghulam Qamar, QAMAR, Kamar, or whatever. The local army commander also gave our school 1 lakh rupees to build a science laboratory and a library. But my fight wasn't over. I was reminded of our history lessons in which we learnt about the loot or bounty an army enjoys when a battle is won. I began to see the awards and recognition just like that. They were little jewels with not much meaning. I needed to concentrate on winning the war. So she said, I wanted to start an education foundation. This had been on my mind ever since I'd seen the children working on the rubbish mountain. I still could not shake the image of the black rats I had seen there and the girl with matted hair who had been sorting rubbish. We held a conference of 21 girls and made our priority education for every girl in Swat Valley, with a particular focus on street children and those in child labor. As we crossed Malakand Pass, I saw a young girl selling oranges. She was scratching marks on a scrap paper with a nail to account for the oranges she had sold, as she could not read or write. I took a photo of her and I vowed I would do everything in my power to help educate girls just like her. This is what I was going to fight for. Malala now continues to champion universal access to educate through the Malala Fund, a non-profit organization investing in commuting the education progress. Supporting education advocates around the world. That is www.malala.org. So that is it. And she talks about one more thing I would like to share is that the day she was shot, like it's on page 102, the bus turned right off the main road at the army checkpoint. And the road up the small hill is usually busy as it is a shortcut, but that day it was strangely quiet. Where are all the people? I asked Moniba. All the girls were singing and chatting, and our voices bounced around inside the bus. Around the time my mother was probably just going through the doorway into our school for her first lessons since she had left school at age 6. I didn't see the two young men step out into the road and bring the van to a sudden halt. I didn't get a chance to answer their question, "Who is Malala?" Or I would have explained to them why they should let us girls go to school as well as their own sisters and daughters. And that was 9th October 2012. She was 15 years old. 3 shots were fired, seriously wounding her. And really, you must read the book, find out all about her trials and tribulations after the injury and before that. Absolutely, it's a book that you won't forget in a hurry.